Oh, welcome to another one of my history videos. I'm John. And today we're going to talk about Montreal Wanderers. Now, you look at like the NHL, and it's not. I mean, you look at it. The Montreal Wanderers were a team that played in the first season of the National Hockey League. They played 6 games. They won one. Their wooden arena burned down, and then that was it. They folded. And you would think that's it. Like, they're just a footnote to history, a trivia question. What was the shortest lived franchise in NHL history? Which is true. Their NHL history is that brief. But they existed before the NHL. So let's talk about it. The Montreal Wanderers were an amateur, later professional ice hockey team based in Montreal. The team played in the Federal Amateur Hockey League, the Eastern Canada Amateur Hockey Association, the National Hockey Association, NHA, which predates the NHL, and briefly the National Hockey League. The Wanderers were actually 4-time Stanley Cup winners. Prior to the formation of the National Hockey League, the Red Bands were one of the most successful teams in history. So James Strachan announced the formation of the new club on December 1st, 1903. The team was founded on December 3rd, 1903, when club members met and selected their colors as red and white and named their officers. Honorary President George Hodge, Honorary Vice President Clarence D. McCarroll, President James Strachan, Vice President George Guile, and Secretary Tom J. Hodge. The club had formed over a dispute over the control of the Montreal Hockey Club. Along with teams rejected for membership in the Canadian Amateur Hockey League, the club helped found the Federal Amateur Hockey League on December 5th, 1903. Many earlier Wanderers had been members of the Montreal Hockey Club team from 1902 to 1903, which won the Stanley Cup. That team had been known as the Little Men of Iron because of the players' tenacity and small stature, and a nickname carried over to the new club. The Wanderers' first Stanley Cup challenge was played against the Ottawa Hockey Club on March 2nd, 1904, resulting in a 5-5 tie game. The Wanderers would refuse to continue the series unless the tie was replayed in Montreal and forfeited the series. This was the start of a terrific rivalry, as Ottawa and the Wanderers would split the championship between them from 1903 until 1912. Ottawa and the Wanderers would meet again in 1906 after a regular season tie for first place in the ECAHA and played a two-game total goals series for the league championship and the cup. The Wanderers won the first game in Montreal 9-1. The Silver 7 would storm back in a return match in Ottawa with a 9-1 lead at one point in the game, evening the total goals with only one 9-3, as the Wanderers scored the last 2 goals to win the series and their first Stanley Cup. Montreal defended the cup in its first challenge as champions in December 1906. The Wanderers defeated the New Glasgow Cubs 17-5 in a 2-game total game goals series. Montreal repeated as league championships in 1907, then faced the Kenora Thistles in a Cup challenge in January 1907. Kenora defeated Montreal 4-2 and 8-6, taking the cup back to Northern Ontario. The Wanderers would regain the cup from Kenora 2 months later in Winnipeg, Manitoba, defeating the Thistles 7-2 and 5-6. The Wanderers won their 3rd consecutive league title in 1908 while defending the cup in a mid-season challenge by the Ottawa Victorias in January. After their 3rd consecutive ECAHA title, the Wanderers were given its trophy, the Arena Cup, permanently. The cup is on display in the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. After the 1908 regular season, Montreal defended the Stanley Cup twice, in March 1908 in challenges by the Winnipeg Maple Leafs. That's funny. And the Toronto Professional Hockey Club. The 1908 Wanderers team scratched their names inside the bowl, which was just prior to the second band being added to the cup. The team included future honored members of the Hockey Hall of Fame: Moose Johnson, Todd Stewart, Riley Hearn, Lester Patrick, and Ernie Russell. Before the 1909 season started, Montreal defended its cup in a challenge by the Edmonton Hockey Club, winning 13-10 in 2 games. The Wanderers would lose the cup they had held for 2 years, finishing second place in the ECAHA to Ottawa. National Hockey Association. The Wanderers were involved in the formation of the National Hockey Association. After the 1908 season, the Wanderers have been sold to P.J. Doran, owner of the Jubilee Rink, which now made plans to move the club from the Montreal Arena to the smaller Jubilee for the 1910 season. This upset other members of the ECHA, who would receive a smaller share of the proceeds from games played in the Wanderers' rink. The other ECH members suspended the ECHA and set up the Canadian Hockey Association League and rejected the application of the Wanderers to join. The Wanderers' representative at the meeting, Jimmy Gardner, met Ambrose O'Brien in the ground floor of the hotel where the league was meeting. Gardner suggested to O'Brien, who had been rejected for his application for the Renfrew Creamery Kings to join the ECHA, that they form a new league, including the Wanderers. Renfrew and the Coble and Haileybury teams that, including the Wanderers, Renfrew, and the Coble and Haileybury teams that O'Brien owned. I'm an American, so I'm probably butchering his Canadian town pronunciations. O'Brien agreed, and on December 4th, 1909, the NHA was founded. Later, the CHA folded, and Ottawa and the Montreal Shamrocks joined the NHA. Doran sold the club to Eddie McGafferty, the secretary of the Montreal Royals minor league baseball team owned by Sam Lichtenheim. McCafferty incorporated the Wanderers and sold shares of the club to the public. The majority of the shares were bought by Lichtenheim, and he became president of the club's corporation. The club moved back to the Montreal Arena. The Wanderers regained the cup in 1910, winning the championship of the new NHA and the new O'Brien Cup. The Wanderers successfully defended the Stanley Cup for the final time versus the Berlin Dutchmen in March of 1910. Montreal fell to 4th place the following season and lost the privilege to defend the Stanley Cup. The Wanderers would then miss the playoffs 4 seasons in a row. Montreal's last winning season came in 1914-15 when they tied for first place and lost in a playoff for the league championship. The Wanderers would only win 15 of their next 44 games in 2 seasons before the NHA was reorganized as the National Hockey League. And here we come to the history we already know. The NHL and the team's demise. The Wanderers played only 4 games in the NHL's inaugural season and lost all but 1 before their home rink, the Montreal Arena, burned down on January 2nd, 1918. At the time, they had lost star players Sprague Cleghorn and Odie Cleghorn, and had appealed to the other teams for player help. Before the fire, they had successfully obtained goaltender Hap Holmes from Seattle of the PCHA and seemed like they might turn around their misfortunes. After the fire, the Wanderers again appealed for reinforcements, but none were forthcoming. The team defaulted its next two games against the Montreal Canadiens and Toronto, and then disbanded. The last active Wanderers player was George Guerin, who played his last NHL game in 1926. Dave Ritchie and Bill Stevens also played that season, but not the full year. After the founding of the Montreal Canadiens, a team that specifically appealed to Montreal's Francophone community, the Wanderers drew their support from Montreal's English-speaking community. A new team, the Montreal Maroons, was later established to take the Wanderers' place. The owners originally intended to use the name Wanderers, but were unable to obtain rights to the name. The Maroons, too, would eventually fold in 1938, ending efforts to entrench separate Montreal-based teams for French and English-speaking fans. The Wanderers were created in December 1903, played their first league game the following month, won their first league championship the next month, and challenged the Ottawa Silver Seven Senators Hockey Club for the Stanley Cup on March 2nd, 1904. When they lost that first challenge, it marked the start of a period of 8 consecutive years through March 5th, 1912, where these two teams would coexist and either the Montreal Wanderers or the Ottawa Hockey Club would hold the Stanley Cup. Only the Kenora Thistles would impede on these two teams. The Wanderers would win or defend the Cup 10 times in their first 7 years of existence and lost only 2 direct challenges, to Ottawa in March 1904 and to Kenora in January of 1907 during that period. They finished with a franchise history of 212 games played, 122 wins, 90 losses, no ties, and 244 points. So hope you liked this history video. This is the logo that they used. Yes, I'm wearing this as a Wild shirt. I don't know why, just saying. This is what their logo was. I have other sports history videos y'all might like if you want to watch. So thanks for watching. Give a like, comment, share, follow. I got the window behind me, so that's why I'm oh look, I'm light. So talk to y'all later.